What on earth are you doing? Yes, I mean you. What on earth are you doing? That is the topic of today in our Triumphant Life podcast, episode number 9. I'm Janet McKee, wellness expert, speaker, best-selling author, certified in high performance, teaching you everything you need to know to live a better life. And I'm asking you, what on earth are you doing? This comes up as a result of a very in-depth, long conversation I had this week with a high-performance coaching client of mine. Very high-level position in a very important organization, and her organization is struggling. The employees are very unhappy and very dissatisfied, and people are dropping like flies, leaving that organization, and it's a huge concern. So much so that they have an SOS project out called Save Our Staff. So we're talking in depth about this problem. And after a very long conversation, I pointed out that this is just a symptom of an underlying deeper issue. And that is that the employees need to understand what they're really doing. What on earth are they doing? Because this organization is an organization that helps people with addictions and other very serious problems. The employees and the staff and the executives are all struggling with everything they have to do every day, right? Everything they have to respond to, all the paperwork that has to be done because of all the government regulations and so forth and so on. And so I asked her, what is the real purpose of your organization? And it is to help people. So what these employees are actually doing are very important tasks to help people. That is what they're truly doing. So whenever they're digging through all of this mundane paperwork and bureaucracy and all of the in-office politics that are going on, instead of thinking about all of this horrible paperwork that they have to complete, they need to think about that what they're doing is actually filling out paperwork so that the government supports their efforts in helping people deal with addictions and other mental and emotional disorders. That is what on earth they are doing. And if they had that perspective, then they would approach their job with much more inspiration and motivation. Imagine if one of these people that needs help from this organization was your brother or your sister or your child. You would be so grateful that that organization was available to help you and that loved one. And you would be so grateful to the government for offering assistance to make sure that this was available. So imagine if each employee didn't think about themselves, but instead thought about the very dear, beautiful individuals that needed their help. And that's why they needed to do the paperwork. That's why they needed to work on all of the different projects and answer all the phone calls and all the emails and so forth. That is what on earth they are doing. And this hit me really hard this week because after working really busy every day, I had to go to our farm, Sonneview Farms, to get ready for a wedding that's happening this weekend. And because we're short-staffed, I had to get there. I had to scrub down the farmhouse because the wedding family always stays in the farmhouse, and I was cleaning the barn. And from top to bottom, running the shop vac, sweeping, wiping down, scrubbing the toilets. Yes, me. And I'm thinking to myself, why am I doing this? I have so many more important things to be doing. And suddenly it occurred to me, what I'm doing is creating a sparkly, clean, beautiful, rustic wedding venue for this wonderful family that chose my farm to enjoy a family wedding. They're coming to celebrate two loved ones that are coming together and joining in matrimony to spend the rest of their lives together. It's an event for all the friends and family to come and celebrate. That is what on earth I was doing. I wasn't just scrubbing the toilets. And this reminds me of a story that I heard from Professor Rao. And Professor Rao is one of the many experts that I have studied with over the past 10 plus years to learn all of this great information so that I can share it with you. And he talks about a story he claims, back in the medieval times, where they were building a new cathedral. And somebody walked up to these men that were hammering and sledgehammering these stones as part of the cathedral construction. And this gentleman said to the first man, "Sir, what are you doing?" And the first man said, "Well, I'm hitting these stones." "Well, why?" "Because that way I get paid." And then he went to the second man and said, "What are you doing?" "Well, I'm hitting these stones actually to build a wall." "Well, why?" "Because I'm building a wall, which is what my boss wants me to do." And then he went to the third guy and he said, "What are you doing?" And the third man said, "I'm actually building a cathedral. And when this cathedral is finished, people are going to come from miles away to come and worship and enjoy this amazing cathedral." That is what on earth he was doing. And the story goes that years later, the same man looked into what happened to these three workers. The first man had passed away and he was no longer alive. The second man was struggling, ongoing, to make ends meet, working jobs where he was getting paid. And the third man was building his own cathedral. The moral of the story here is there were three men in the same situation working the same job, but each one had a different perspective of that job. And because that perspective created an energy within them, their outcome of their lives reflected that. Do you want to just be crushing the stone because you're getting paid? Or do you want to build a cathedral? That is what we need to think about. And it occurred to me just this week, I made a phone call because I wanted to get my hair trimmed. Ignore my hair right now. I was outside walking the dogs in the rain, okay, before I came in here. And I called that hair place that I only go to maybe 4 times a year because I hardly ever get my hair cut. And I asked for the woman that's been cutting my hair for about 5 years. And they said, "Oh, Janet, I'm sorry, she's no longer with us. She moved away." Right away, I was like, oh no. The only reason why I go to this woman is she's the only one ever from any beautician I've ever gone to see that lets me keep my long, crazy hair and doesn't cut all my hair off. Because every time I would go to a beautician, I would say, "Please just take an inch," and they would take off that much, right? Because everybody believes my hair should be shorter. And I don't care what other people believe. I want what I want, right? So right away, I was like, oh no. I'm like, okay, can you give me someone else? But please give me somebody that won't cut off all my hair. And here I went. And there was a very nice gentleman. And he listened to what I had to say. And actually, I liked the trim he gave me even better because he gave me a little bit more layers and so forth. Okay, so moral of the story there is that instead of being upset about something, ask yourself when something doesn't go exactly as planned, what good may come of this? And this is interesting because that's exactly what has happened in my life so dramatically over the past several years. Because a few years ago, my husband walked out in about an hour's notice and left me not only sad and depressed and heartbroken, but also extremely fearful over money and finances, because prior to him leaving, he put liens on all the investment properties that I developed while raising our son, which I developed for financial security. And he put liens on all these properties to buy a business that was not doing well. As a matter of fact, at the time, the business was failing. So I went through a year of pure depression and fear. And that is why I had to finally seek answers and solutions for my life. So I went out around the world and studied with many world masters on success and achievement and positive thinking. And that is why I have created the most incredible thought processes, which has created for me an incredible life. And not only, right, the result of my husband leaving, which at the moment was a bad thing, it turned out to be a good thing. And as a matter of fact, I've had the opportunity to meet some really cool guys as a result of my husband leaving. So what good may come of any struggle? And so you want to think about your job this way. And the reason why I bring up all of that is because when I went to get my hair cut, the gentleman that was cutting my hair said, "Well, what do you do for a living?" And I said, "Well, I'm a health counselor, wellness expert, speaker, author, high performance success coach. And I do, some speaking and writing, and I work with people one-on-one, blah, blah, blah," right? Blah, blah, blah. When actually, what on earth do I do? What I do is I lead people to live greater lives. That is what on earth I am doing. And I hope I am doing that for you, because you know that I do this because I'm passionate about teaching you to live a more triumphant life, because I love you. Thank you for joining me. Triumphant Life Podcast, episode 9. I want you to think about and write down a new term that describes what on earth you are doing. Thank you for joining me, and have a wonderful, wonderful day, evening, night, whatever time zone you're in. I love you. Bye.